Electrocast.
And we're live on match day as Doug reaches for a buffalo wing. He's got it! Oh, and he's gone for a can of Pepsi too! What a finish! There's no doubt about it. It just tastes better. Match days deserve Pepsi.
This is going to be an extremely busy month. I have to watch 104 soccer games, follow the pregame, the postgame, yell useless opinions at the TV. It's a lot. So I knew that when it comes to screening for colon cancer, the choice was clear. The Cologuard Plus test. It can be used at home and can only take 15 minutes, so I can do it during halftime and not miss any action. If you are 45 or older and at average risk, ask your healthcare provider about screening for colon cancer with the Cologuard test. You can also request a prescription at Cologuard.com.
Hold on to your butts.
We are changing the course of history as we see it. That is what Wesley demands.
Now, this affects Iris. Iris, where are you?
What you feel only matters to you. I do not entertain hypotheticals. The world as it is vexing enough.
Iris, I have a tip for you.
Don't take drugs!
Or Whatever Movies with Wesley and Iris.
What up and welcome to Or Whatever Movies. I'm your co-host Iris and I'm here with my older brother,
Wesley.
Today we're talking a movie from 2011. Geez. Martha, Marcy May, Marlene.
First time, huh?
Yep.
Okay, Iris, we're doing this thing where we go back in time to before you saw the movie we're discussing. Iris, what is Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene about?
There's 4 women with names that all start with M. And I think the chick from Another Earth, who was kind of a thing for a minute.
Britt Marling? Yeah,
and featuring Britt Marling and some other blondes like White Oleander style. And, and there's an Olsen. I think this was like the Olsen's breakout. And it's very dramatic and probably dark. And put Sean Durkin on the map.
But what happens to the Olsen twins and the White Oleanders?
I imagine there's intrigue and infighting, probably some love triangles, and a eventual imminent death.
Well, if there's 4 of them and another person, that would be a love pentangle.
Something like that, at least.
Good job.
How'd I do?
No. Man, this might be a dark one.
This cult business, that's messed up.
They never say the word cult. How do you figure it's a cult?
Yeah, I noted that. They never said the word cult. I was actually surprised that the word cult is used in the log line on IMDb. But it's definitely a cult, and I'm wondering how accurate. I'd be curious to know how accurate Martha's re-entry is. It seems like that might be pretty realistic. I can imagine that there's a total dissonance with reality and dream, that you don't behave normally. There's just this like flat affect and inability to relate to people, like the skittishness, the abuse. But was she paranoid? I mean, those rocks and stuff, or the pine cones that were hitting the roof, were signals from the cult people, right?
So was it just intended to be constantly reminding her of their presence if they were in fact signals or communications? It's difficult to say which of those things are not her imagination or her paranoia. The guy sitting on the rocks, Mike behind the bar at the party. It seemed like the guy on the road at the end was pretty aggressive, and she did do actual damage to that car on the road, which she may or may not have actually recognized. But I think Marcy's state of mind, Martha's state of mind, is like the overall effect of the movie, this flowing between imagination, dream, and reality. And we're never really, I don't think she's ever 100% sure. And if she's not, boy, she lashes out at some people and does some property damage.
I do not deny that she's paranoid, but why would we consider that any of the things that we saw, the Michael Lewis behind the bar, the car that was clearly Watt's car, the guy on the rock, the guy in the car at the end, why would we assume that any of those are not real or hallucinations? Doesn't the fact that Lucy and Ted see the guy at the end validate that all of that was real?
Yeah, but they're in upstate New York. Idiots run out on the road all the time.
Okay. But like aggressive idiots in like cheap white t-shirts?
I think we want to be on Marcy's side. We want to believe that she's not hallucinating or overly paranoid because it gives her some semblance of hope. I was in a similarly dark place when I saw this movie, and I was really surprised by how different my state of mind is now, relatively speaking, in terms of relating to Martha and believing Martha and being sympathetic of her, as opposed to being on Ted and Lucy's side. She rolls in and upends their life in a way that they don't deserve. John Hawkes, who played Patrick, the cult leader, plays a pretty fixed character. I don't think he ever raises his voice, and he was trying to play it softer and maybe, to your point, more realistic of how it is, because those communities have to sustain in order to lure people in or to create a thriving community. At least you can't kill people and you can't have ritualistic like bonfires every night. I think it's only a one-off thing. So they are being taken care of because that's what those people seek. It is more realistic because it has to be sustainable, at least in the short term, until he gets his whims up, where he decides that some people need to die, or some homes need to be invaded, or people's personal space needs to be violated, or whatever. Kind of more realistic. But like Patrick, Lucy and Ted are not bad. I think if they were going to play up the more fanciful elements, or the, raving lunatic cult leader type in Patrick, they also would have played up a more lecherous side of Ted, or a more creepy. Ted was pretty supportive until he was being kicked down the stairs.
Lecherous.
Yeah, you would think that if they were playing this kind of for high drama, Martha would be prey to Patrick as the raving, wild-eyed cult leader. And the Ted character, if he were going to be unlikable, wouldn't just be defending the stability of his home and his wife and his job when the sister comes stomping in and starts screaming about her trauma. That's not something Ted deserved. And he wasn't portrayed as a bad guy, I don't think. Because if it were more obvious, he would have spied on her or hit on her or hit her or something like that. Looking more for realism and subtlety in the motivations of these characters, and so it's not American History X or a Charles Manson cult movie.
Lucy and Ted are materialists, as Martha classifies them, and I guess the viewer can bring to that however they might feel, but they're not denying that, and they're not in denial about who or what they are. I think they like their life. I think they're proud of the life that they've built. Maybe they're a little overreaching, like renting this giant fancy house for 2 people when his real estate development business or whatever is on the line. But they're not bad people. They are who they are, and they happen to be very different lifestyle-wise and maybe philosophically than Martha. What I'm saying is, I agree they don't deserve this. Lucy is not without her flaws, but she's pretty unfailingly supportive of her sister, and she goes to great lengths to be there for her, to support her, to try and understand what she's going through, with very little coming from Martha by way of information, gratitude, by way of kind of normal behavior. Like Lucy is extending herself and her marriage and this new family. She's kind of putting off this new family that she's trying to create to support her sister, and she doesn't deserve the behavior that Martha gives her in return. And I think that in the end, she and Ted are probably doing the most responsible thing by getting Martha professional help.
Does that eliminate the problem for Lucy and Ted? Will they stop being harassed at their idyllic lakeside home once she's gone? Because they can better target her and hopefully draw her back into the fold, or drag her back?
Lucy and Ted seem like the exact targets for the cult and their home invasions. Like the other 2 houses, I was sure were Ted and Lucy's until they were revealed not to be. I don't think that Lucy and Ted have eliminated the threat. And then as far as Martha's concerned, is she Will she be more vulnerable in a facility? Maybe, but at least her case will be documented. And if she does share a little bit about what she knows about the cult, maybe they know where to find her, or they'd be able to make a really educated guess about what happened to her if she goes missing. All of this, though, the fact that I believe that they're pursuing her is strange and kind of undermined by Watts letting her go in the diner. Why does he do that?
Maybe he was gauging her response at his arrival, at his appearance, and thought maybe there would have been a scene in public had he tried anything more than what he did by making himself known. You can't do it in public because then the authorities will step in. And he can't coerce her privately that going back, returning would be the right thing.
And so what, he was just biding his time for when he could nab her secretly?
I would have to assume that he was making her aware that she hadn't escaped cleanly, that they knew where she was and what she was doing, and that they expected her to come to her senses at some point because they were never going away. I know where you are. I'm here. You take care of yourself, but we'll be watching. And indeed, some presence of the cult was present ever after. I don't think she went 15 minutes of runtime without experiencing some invasion of her, into her escape.
Yeah, whether it was through dreams or daydreams or some perceived intrusion.
What you said was interesting, the idea that the home invasion flashback might have been Lucy and Ted's house. That residual bleed thematically of dread and emotion and trauma is the point, I think, of Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene. There are definitely some people who would watch this movie and be like, that was terrible. Why? The dreaded why. And the answer for this, I would always come back to the filmmaking and the unique take on this cult perspective. It's not crazy wild eyes and murder left and right. It's really all in Martha's face and happening around her and not knowing. And as a viewer, we're carried along where our perception is jogged a little bit because we don't know if we're in the present or in the past, if what we're experiencing is a dream or reality, if that poor victim's home was in fact Ted and Lucy, and Patrick and Cult had decided that it was now time to extract Martha once and for all.
So Sean Durkin successfully puts us in Martha's shoes. I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm waiting for the confrontation. And it only happens in these sideways, indirect ways, like with Michael Lewis, the bartender, or not Peeping Tom. What do you call the person on the rocks?
I don't know. He was like the watcher in the woods.
Yeah. But it never happens. And so is that the point too? To keep us wondering?
I think so.
Because I found that to be pretty unsatisfying. I guess I didn't have the dreaded why so much as just a very unsatisfied, abrupt seeming ending.
No way to end it except that the movie has reached the end of its runtime and Martha is really no better off than she was when she ran off into the woods. Nothing much happens at all overtly in the movie, which I think is one of the movie's strengths. Is Martha suffering from a mental illness, which means that not only is she susceptible to the embrace of the society in which she found herself, but also is incapable of letting it go, of reassimilating into quote-unquote normal life? Nothing really happens until something really bad happens, which is pretty late stage. You cannot deny the Patrick-Martha rape scene, and then that's reiterated when she takes the Marcy May role and indoctrinates other young women.
Julia Garner?
Yeah, Julia Garner, who plays a new arrival to the cult, who also has a different name.
Yeah, she goes from Sarah to Sally. I noted that.
And then the murder, which takes place in flashback, up until that point, I was like, nothing really happens to suggest that she is the hero for whom we are pulling and she's not ill. And then things really, really happen, but it's all super late stage. Like the overt murder that we've been moving towards the entire movie, in which we experience in flashback maybe the last 30 minutes of the movie, and then everything becomes clear. But up until then, we are in her shoes. I don't think she was wearing shoes very much, except at the party. I think she was barefoot the whole time.
I think that, yeah, she constantly wanted to revert to her natural state. I'm just wondering, like, is this a on Golden Pond situation where skinny dipping is normal? And then Lucy and Ted tell us that it's not.
Okay, the communal nature of the sleeping arrangements and the boning arrangements maybe is normal in some facets, but going into your sister's room is maybe not as normal.
How is that less normal than communal orgy sex?
Your sister?
Yeah, but weren't they like all sisters and mothers and wives?
I don't think any of them were related, but it seemed like the choice of partners when they were communally boning was arbitrary. Patrick boned everybody, and Swoop boned everybody, and Watts and everybody. Honestly, I have a really hard time making any distinction between Patrick and Max and Watts and Mike's and any of those people, and I think that's kind of the point.
Because they were all like dirty shirt wearing white dudes?
Not white as a pejorative, obviously, but when we see Mike as the bartender at Lucy and Ted's house, I can't tell if that's the same Mike. I can't tell if that's Watts or if that's Max or who that is. I can't tell if he is actually a bad guy. Did you match that actor's face? He's credited on IMDb as bartender, not as Max/bartender or Watts/bartender.
So what I understood about the bartender was that he wasn't identifiable as any of the men that we met at the farm, but rather a new recruit like Julia Garner was, but after Martha had left. But the fact that he used the name Mike validated that she was right, that he was a part of the cult and he was there to make some money, but also to spy on Martha, because Michael Lewis is the equivalent of Marlene Lewis, which I assume is their cover names. If I'm not mistaken, they also did the whole questioning routine. Like, you know how there's the patter that you use to answer the phone? Like, he did the same thing. So I was pretty sure he was him, but I was 100% tracking Brady Corbet.
Which was who?
Watts.
Because you thought he was hot?
It's Brady Corbet. He's Academy Award-winning filmmaker of The Brutalist.
Oh.
On July 16th, The Hawk lands on Netflix. From the mind of Will Ferrell.
Oh, mama, I'm back!
Comes a new original series.
Get ready, get ready. That's it. Did I stutter?
When an iconic pro golfer...
Lonnie,
Honka!
...takes one last swing at greatness.
you were a big shot golfer.
I still am a big shot golfer.
No one...
Dad, I'm the honk now.
...will stand in his way.
That's how it's done.
The Hawk, only on Netflix, July 16th.
If data management is slowing down your business, you need the Intuit ERP. If one entity is here, and one here, and one here, and one here, you need the Intuit ERP. If scaling your business feels like starting over, you need the Intuit ERP. Intuit Enterprise Suite is the AI-native ERP solution that consolidates, migrates, and automates, all in one place. Learn more at intuit.com/ERP.
Did you not recognize him?
No, definitely
I mean, he's much
not.
younger and leaner, of course, but that's full-on Brady Corbet.
I was really following John Hawkes, where this was his sweet spot for a while. This, what are we calling them? The T-shirt, not wife beaters, the domestic abuser T-shirts, smoking and kind of sallow looking and scary. This was his jam for a second here with Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene, and with Winter's Bone. Wasn't tracking Brady at all.
Wow. I was like, that's Brady Corbet. What? I knew he was an actor. I have to say that watching this movie, I did want to revisit Winter's Bone in a weird, self-abusing kind of way.
And Winter's Bone, like Martha, Marcy May Marlene, very much in the dirt, very much John Hawkes, and had a relative newcomer. You know, Jennifer Lawrence, that was her breakthrough role in Winter's Bone, way more experienced in television and film than Elizabeth Olsen in Martha, Marcy May Marlene, who had never done anything that the public had seen.
Huh. I can't imagine that she was ever far from a set growing up.
Yeah, she's the younger sister of the Olsen twins, and whom you confused as one of the Olsen twins in your Back in Time.
I knew that it was an indie darling. It was probably a Sundance debut, wasn't it?
Was there ever more an indie than Martha, Marcy May Marlene? Like I mentioned earlier, the strength of this movie being almost more than anything how little Sean Durkin had to work with. Nothing flashy in this movie at all. They're in upstate New York, which affords a natural beauty, or wherever they were. It might have been Canada. But the idea that they were in beautiful surroundings and yet still tormented in this bubble of anguish and trauma, mostly in Martha's head. And it made everything look menacing. Did you note also, starting with the Mike scene, where he's frustratingly out of frame? You do get a good look at his face, but do you really get a good look at anyone's face in this movie? And likewise, as her perspective and her paranoia, as she gets more fractured, Martha, as we go along, it's almost entirely on her. Her last discussion with Lucy is entirely off screen. She's like gardening or something in the car with Lucy and Ted. It's entirely on Martha. We don't see them at all, nor do we see Brady, Max, Patrick's face or whatever when the dude runs in front of the car and then runs back to his car. We're so firmly in Martha's head, in Martha's world, the camera doesn't cut to anyone. That kind of confined claustrophobic filmmaking, I think, is really essential to the tone of this movie.
And probably helps with cost savings because they didn't have to do an elaborate stunt with Ted being kicked down the stairs. We just hear it and we see it on her face. And not only do we see it on her face, but she's got this implacable, impassive view of the whole situation. We don't even see Sarah Paulson's face when she inexplicably, murderously says you're going to be a terrible mother. We just stay on the back of her head as she wipes away the tears and then recomposes herself.
So much from so little.
Very interesting choices. But speaking of, why did she say that to her sister?
See, this is where I'm having a problem with this viewing. I was younger. I was in a darker place when Martha Marcy Marlene came across my desk. And I was in Elizabeth Olsen's camp. But now I'm kind of more with Ted and Lucy. And it's terrible. I do think that Martha had some agency and some presence of mind starting out. It seems like these cults typically target young people and especially women who are running or escaping or trying to find something that they don't possess. When she arrived, she was, it was sunny and she's sitting on the grass with her air quotes friend. And, great place you got here. And Patrick starts in with his stuff. Was she damaged? As Lucy said, I have always tried to push you, to help you find your way, or whatever she says. That she was shiftless and maybe beyond hope and seemed like the perfect candidate? Or was she just a normal person?
Well, their mom had died.
Right.
The dad wasn't in the picture. The sister seems like maybe she's significantly older, even though she means well. There's a big age gap. And then she was in a bad situation with Aunt Dora. So yes, it sounded like she didn't really have a family to speak of, that she was looking for community, maybe looking for a father figure, and of a kind of more freewheeling mindset, like anti-institutional kind of mindset. To your point, vulnerable, susceptible, probably an easy target. Some of the hallmarks of cult assimilation are isolation, which they do pretty successfully by being out on the farm, and we don't really talk to our families and all that kind of stuff, as is revealed when Katie, or one of the women, talks about just hitting her dad up for money, but that's the only reason they have contact. But then also another big one is stripping you of an identity, which is maybe part and parcel with isolation, right? But I think that's the whole point of the renaming. You basically lose Martha and you become Marcy May, and all of that doesn't seem like a reality anymore, something that you can go back to, or a support structure that exists in your life anymore.
Yeah, I think that's the point. The idea that you're looking to broaden your mind or your horizons, and it becomes a continual whittling down of your own personality to where you're stripped of the person you were before. Marcy May is more of a shell. Marlene is a communal existence, just a hollow identity. But as she gets stripped away, she loses her capacity, maybe, for individual thought, where she is repeating, I'm a teacher and a leader, and you never let me be that. And she's applying that to Lucy's conversation, but it doesn't really mean anything. It is her reverting to the identity she was given and not the actual reality. Just because she gave someone the rape drink and then made sure they got nice and raped doesn't mean that she was a teacher. She was the hand of Patrick at that point.
Yeah. And that was the moment where I was firmly ensconced on Lucy and Ted's side. When Lucy was like, what does that mean? Like she called her out at dinner. Like They're just hollow words. And she calls her out. And you can see on Martha's face how confused she is. Because she says it and means it with such conviction. But when she herself analyzes it, she's like, yeah, what do I mean? What am I? And that confusion that registers on her face keeps her from being a villain and more of a victim, but makes her maybe more sympathetic. But also, there is no substance to what she's saying, despite the amount of conviction she might apply to it.
And a counterpart to that is when she said that you guys focus on material wealth and money, and that's just not the right way. And like the other scene they were talking about, her eyes are downcast. She is repeating, recalling from memory, and there's a level of assertion there because she's declaratively stating her position, but it's not her position. At least it didn't originate that way. She's not staring them in the face. She doesn't have full confidence in what she's saying. It's more reactionary to the limitations that they seem to be impressing on her. You don't care about me. You care about your house and your fancy stuff and your image in front of your friends in case I cause a scene. It's not what Martha needs. But going back to the original conceit, it was monstrous when she said, you're going to be a terrible mother. And she apologized for it later. I'm not sure that was enough. When she's with Ted, and I expected things to go really badly for the Ted character, you're on your own with the crazy sister-in-law, and you are taking her out on the boat. What's happening? I was afraid that was going to be his Harvey Weinstein moment.
No.
And then he communicates to her their desire to have a kid, and Martha laughs for way too long. And it's like a braying donkey kind of outwardly like in his face kind of laugh. And she's really terrible. Like she needs help. She's obviously, you're the only people that can help her. And I'm sorry, Ted, that you're in this position, but she needs clinical help, not just a safe place, a warm bed, and hot food. Maybe she had that. Maybe not safe, but she had that with Patrick and Colt. I can't get around the justification. I can't get to arrive at the justification for some of the terrible things she did. And so that brought me back to her agency at the beginning. Was she in a stable enough place that you can blame all of her faults now on her brainwashing? Or was she a terrible person? And this is not to promote the virtues of Lucy and Ted necessarily. Not to say they're better people. They're just more stable people. And he has allowed his frustrations and his concerns and the violated feeling he has when she shows up, when she sits on their bed while they're in a delicate position. It's really hard. They made it really difficult in my adult viewing to be on Martha's side continually, so much that I was able to vilify Lucy and Ted when she kind of spit in their face after the extent to which they extended themselves on her behalf.
Well, I can't help but think that Martha was just a kid when she joined the cult, and that she was impressionable, and she made, and she like imprinted on Patrick. And what I mean by that is I don't think we can blame Martha or say that she was a bad person to begin with going into the cult, because I think she was just a kid. And that's probably the basis for my understanding, my approach to the Martha character, that she really is a victim. Not to say that the horrible things that she does are excusable. I don't think that she actually apologized to Lucy at the end. Lucy is the one who says, I think we both said some things that we both regret. And Martha maybe half confirms or agrees.
Yeah, it's like, kind of like that.
Yeah, and then kind of wanders off. It doesn't reek to me of anything more than just a kid. Normalized behavior is important because it helps people navigate and function in society, but also they are constructs. I don't personally think it's normal to just wander in when two people are having sex, but I can totally understand where she's coming from. It's just a construct that she has not been acclimated to. In fact, she was acclimated in the complete opposite direction.
Maybe that's a continual theme. Acclimation into Patrick's cult, acclimation back into real life, the process that Lucy and Ted undergo in trying to help Martha and accept her into their lives, back into Lucy's life, in the case of Ted, into his life for the first time. It doesn't seem like they're ever in the position that she really ineffectually communicates. You are in danger. If we don't leave now, the people who are following me are going to kill you. I've seen it done. They're like, that dude was right in the road. What the heck? And have no idea. Was that? It sure seemed like that was a Max or a Cody or whoever all the other randos were from the cult. But we were in the dark a lot of the time. And Sean Durkin's kind of restrictive frame, it really keeps us from knowing for sure. And we're always, I think, in the Lucy-Ted position. Maybe our reactions are a little bit different because we have more insight to Martha, but it's hard to tell. I don't know that you can extract any measure of comfort or satisfaction from this movie, but I do believe it's worth the ride to get there, to get to wherever we end up, which is kind of full circle to where we started.
It could be full circle. They could get hijacked like a mile down the road, or she could land at the clinic and receive professional help with the continued support of Lucy and Ted and turn it around, and then write her book about when she was in the Marlene and Michael Lewis cult. It seems to me the impression that the filmmakers want to leave on us is that of menace. The car is awfully close. Watts is definitely tailgating them.
And swerving. You said Watts, like you know for sure.
And I imagined that wasn't going to end well. But who knows?
Really makes for an effective package and one of the most effective indie movies I think I've ever seen. So much so that I remembered this film, this director, and tracked everyone accordingly after the fact. And hoped that it wouldn't ruin your day so much that you would watch it finally and talk about it.
And that's our discussion on Martha, Marcy May, Marlene. Check out our interview style daily dose of whatever on Best Feature Debuts, where Wes had originally mentioned Sean Durkin and his honorable mention for this film, which we're now covering. So we hope you enjoyed this discussion on Martha, Marcy May, Marlene. Now I can finally say the title because it makes sense to me. Or orwhatevermovies.com or wherever you get podcasts. Call our Marlene Lewis hotline, 818-835-0473. Thank you for listening, and
hopefully we'll see you next time.
And hopefully, if we don't get murdered on the side of the road, we'll see you next time.
See you down the road.
Hi, Ryan Reynolds here for Mint Mobile. Are you looking for a beach read this summer? May I suggest your big wireless bill? It's got suspense, mystery, a slightly flat, emotional arc, and a shocking twist where you realize you've been overpaying the entire time. Fortunately, though, Mint's story is better. Every plan, $15 a month, even unlimited. That's it. Happy ending, 0 tears.
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.
Ouch. This knee is killing me, but I can't stop training. The marathon is in 2 weeks.
Let's get on ZocDoc and find a doctor to take a look at that for you.
Okay.
Here's a review. Dr. Craddock really takes his time.
No, I don't have time.
What about Dr. Charles? His patients say he can help find a quick fix, and he's in network.
Great, now we're talking. Book it.
Booked. 1 mile down, 19 to go.
Bring it on.
You've got options. Download the ZocDoc app today.
Electric acid.